Welcome to the School of Wisdom, a weekly podcast produced for the Bible Bistro, studying the book of Proverbs chapter by chapter. My son, hear the instruction of your father. Forsake not the law of your mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace to your head, and chains about your neck. Now, this week's lesson. Hey friends, welcome back to the School of Wisdom podcast here in the Bible Bistro. Today we're looking at Proverbs chapter 31, the chapter about the virtuous king and the virtuous woman. Of course, the virtuous woman, she sort of dominates this chapter, but there's a lot more here than just that. Of course, there's a lot of wisdom there. So we're going to see all of it today. I hope you'll hang on and join me as we study. If you need an outline for this chapter, we just take you over to my-dailydose.com. Click on the blog roll. There you'll find articles that say outline for Proverbs 31 or chapter 30 or chapter 30, chapter 29. Whichever one you need, you just click on that link, go to the article, and in the article there's a link for the PDF. Those are free to you. Just download it at your leisure, and you can use it online. You can use it as a paper piece, however you want to use it. Today we're looking at chapter 31, and if you have the outline, you'll notice that I've entitled this The Queen Mother's Advice, at least the first 9 verses here. We begin with verse 1, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. We don't know who Lemuel is. It could be one of the kings of Judah, could be one of the kings of Israel, a name that doesn't appear anywhere else in the record of the Scripture. It means devoted to God. The prophecy that his mother taught him, the mother of this king is the one who gave this prophecy and taught it to her son. Lemuel, by the rabbis, or at least they teach it to mean Solomon. If Lemuel is Solomon, then his mother is Bathsheba, and she's the one that's teaching him this wisdom. It could also be an Arabic king of lesser stature. We have some Aramaic words in this chapter, so it's possible that we're talking about another king outside of Israel, but because we're talking about wisdom and the fear of the Lord and so forth, we're going to say that probably this is one of the kings of Israel. She goes on to say in verse 2, What, my son, and what the son of my womb, and what the son of my vows? Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways unto that which destroyeth kings. You'll notice that she says in verse 2, 3 whats. What, my son, what the son of my womb, what the son of my vows. She addresses him in every single way possible. She is his mother. That is, she gave birth to him. The son of her husband, we find that from the son of my vows. So the vows there referring to the marriage vow, I would assume. And so we have a son of blood, we have a son of a marriage, and we have a son of the mother. She just loves him because he's hers. Whether or not he was her son by nature or her son by marriage doesn't matter, because this is a mom's advice to her boy. So she addresses him in 3 ways. And then we have 3 things that are referenced here in her advice, or at least in her prophecy that she teaches him. Number 1, on women. Number 2, on drink. And number 3, on judgment. Now, if you have the outline, you'll see that I have divided this first section, 1 through 9, accordingly. So on women, we read that verse 3, Give not your strength unto women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. So not only is it, and it's not just women, but this is talking about the abuse of women, right? So we're talking about the women of the harem, the women besides the wife. So if there's more than one woman, you've got trouble. And ladies and gentlemen, this is true for us today. Any man who thinks he's getting away with keeping more than one woman, any man who thinks he's getting away with having a mistress or 2 and a wife is looking for trouble. It will destroy him. Not only will it destroy him, it will destroy his home. It will destroy his children. It will destroy his marriage. It will destroy his reputation. It will destroy his work life. So be careful. Give not your strength unto women. There is one woman to whom you can give your strength to, and that is your loving wife. After that, you're not to give your strength to women. No, it's only for her. That it's for her alone. So you don't give it to women or to that which destroys kings. It destroys men because they take on too much when they have more than one. And then he says there of drink, it's not for kings to drink wine, for princes strong drink. Now we go right back to Proverbs chapter 20, verse 1, don't we? Wine is a mocker, strong drink is a brawler, and he that is deceived thereby is not wise. Are you being deceived? Wine is not for you. If you're a Christian, especially, you should not be drinking wine or strong drink. It's not for you, because what happens if you drink? You forget the law and you pervert judgment. Now, that might just mean that you forget the law of the land, but it also could mean, and probably does here, especially here, mean that you would forget the law of God. You would forget how to behave morally and act rightly, because that's what drink does to us. It loosens inhibitions. And so if a king, someone in authority, someone with responsibility, and who among us doesn't have that, if you drink, then it's possible that you could drink and forget the law and do something that you would later regret, such as she mentions here in 5, perverting the judgment of the afflicted. And then she suggests where strong drink should be given. To him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Well, we know the medicinal value of alcohol. We know its astringent value. And so to give it to someone who is in pain and ready to perish is not a bad thing. They might need it to help them. It's also an antibiotic. It's an astringent, it's a medication, it's an antibiotic. So alcohol has its place in human life, but the place that it doesn't hold in human life is to be drunken with it. Let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more. Then the third thing that she mentions to her son is, open thy mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such that are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and the needy. The thing that the king should do is he should be speaking on behalf of those who don't have a voice for themselves. And that's our job as well. So I think when she's talking about the king, the virtuous king, this is what we see. Not to be given to women, not to be given to drink, and make sure that you speak up on behalf of those who are ready to perish, appointed to destruction. I think that modern day pro-life movement can take this verse and use it in their own campaign. The cause of all such as are appointed to destruction, those babies in the womb that are being destroyed, they're appointed to destruction. It's time for someone to open their mouth on behalf of them, and that someone is the Christian church. When she says there, don't give your strength unto women, that's back up in verse 3. The idea of strength, or the word strength, is translated strength by the King James here, is also the word that's translated in verse 10, virtue, virtuous. So the king is not to give his virtue away unto women, and the virtuous woman, who can find her? That is, she has not given herself away. So the king doesn't give away his virtue, and then there is a woman who hasn't given away her virtue, and we're going to find out about her next, here beginning in verse 10. And from verse 10 all the way down through verse 31, we have an accounting of the virtuous woman. So we had the virtuous king. He's not to give himself to women to drink, and he's to open his mouth in judgment. Now the virtuous woman, her price is far above rubies. What are we going to find out about her? Well, there are 10 things that we're going to find out about her. First of all, her marriage. Verse 11. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. So the very first thing about the virtuous woman is she has a marriage in which trust is evident. Her husband trusts in her. Think of, when you read this passage, 11 and 12, I want you to think about Joseph in Potiphar's house. Potiphar didn't look to anything that was under Joseph's hand. As a matter of fact, Potiphar never thought about it. All he had to think about was what he was getting ready to eat. That was all. Here, The husband of the virtuous woman, he doesn't think about anything either, because she has everything under control. That's how strong this lady is. This is how trustworthy she is. Under her hand, all the management of the home goes. So she does him good and not evil. There's her trustworthiness all the days of her life. And you'll notice her diligence here as well. Then I want you to look at verses 13 and 14. We see her industry described for us. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh diligently with her hands. She is like the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. Her industry is very clearly seen. She seeks wool and flax. She works willingly. Notice that. She works willingly with her hands. She is like a merchant ship. So we have a little similitude here. She's bringing food from afar. So whatever she can't produce for her home, she is wisely buying. So it's like the woman who clips coupons, She goes and she brings her food from afar, but she does it in such a way that is clever and frugal. Thirdly, we see her management. Verses 15 and 16. She rises also while it is yet night, and gives meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. So she's managing her household by rising early. She gives meat to her servants, her household, and her maidens. And she considers a field and buys it. So she is overseeing the day-to-day operation of this house. This is her management in full display. With the fruit of her hands, you notice her hands are again in display here. Verse 13, she worked willingly with her hands. Here in verse 16, it's the fruit of her hands by which she plants a vineyard. And it's not to say that she's doing that herself. She could be, but probably the fruit of her hands means the money that she's made from other endeavors. She's using that to manage this vineyard. The fourth thing then is her diligence, which we see here in verses 17 and 18. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. So she's diligent. We've really already seen that because we've noticed that she's rising while it's yet night. She is working willingly with her hands. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. So we see the diligence of this lady constantly reflected here. She girds her loins with strength and strengthens her arms. Why is that? Because she knows she's going to be working. She's going to be doing something. So she gets ready. She prepares. Diligence always is prepared. She perceives that her merchandise is good. Her candle goes not out by night. So not only does she rise up early, but she stays up late. This is a worker. She is a diligent worker in her house. So we have her marriage described, her industry, her management, her diligence. And then we come here to verse 19. And in 19 and 20 we have, again, her hands described. She layeth her hand to the spindle. Her hands take hold of the distaff. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. Do you notice how many times the hand is mentioned here? In every phrase. We have it 4 times. Her hands on the spindle, her hands hold the distaff, she reaches out her hand to the poor, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. So this lady is working with her hands. So this describes her power. She has power to create and she has power to give. She is a giver as well as a creator. She's frugal, but she's not miserly at all. She's a giver. So this woman's hands describe her ability, and her ability is seen in her mercy and in her productivity. Verses 20 and 21 give us the sixth item about this lady. She is watchful. Notice her watchfulness here in 20 and 21. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Silk and purple and scarlet. So she is clothed. Her household is clothed. She knows when winter is coming. She prepares. She is watching, and she knows the seasons and how they're changing, and she takes care of those who are under her management so that all of them, even though they may or may not be watching, but she is. So she sees the seasons changing, and she takes care of folks in those times. And this is a simple thing, but every one of us knows women like this. They are always looking ahead, planning for the next thing, planning for the next phase, getting ready for and making sure that everyone else is cared for while that next thing is on its way. Her reputation then is the seventh thing that we're going to look at, verses 23 and 24. Her husband is known in the gates. When he sitteth among the elders of the land, she maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles to the merchant. So here's her reputation, and it's seen in her husband. He's in the gate. Why is he in the gate? Because he married well. And this, of course, didn't happen overnight. The husband's not in the gate when he's a young man. This is now an older man, and he's there, and he's known in the gates, which reflects on her, so her reputation is good. He sits with the elders of the land, so they know her. They know him, so they know her. She makes fine linen, and she sells it. She's also known in the market. She delivers girdles to the merchant. So not only is she creating things for her family, not only is she managing her family, not only is she giving away to others, but this lady has a business. She is selling to the merchants, and the merchants are selling her wares. Of course, she has a reputation not only in the gate because of her husband, but she has a reputation in the market with the merchants because of her goodly merchandise. Her character is the eighth thing here, 25 and 26. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. So her character is seen here. She has strength and she has honor. She clothes herself in strength and honor. Of course, that's a beautiful way to describe this woman, isn't it? She is clothed with strength and honor. She rejoices in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, so she has strength, honor, rejoicing, wisdom, and kindness. Her tongue is the law of kindness. So we see so many wonderful things about her character. Strength, honor, rejoicing, wisdom, and kindness. Why wouldn't you want to know a lady like this? Her character is stellar. It's outstanding. The ninth thing we see about her is the way she keeps her house. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, and her husband also, he praises her. So the children, her household, probably means her servants, and her husband, all of them are blessing her because she's not idle. She's not sitting around eating bonbons and candy and ice cream and watching her stories on TV. No, she's busy with her house. She keeps it. She maintains it. She keeps her family. She keeps her servants. She's a busy lady. And in all that busyness, she is honored because of the way she lives her life. Her character, her reputation, her watchfulness, her giftedness, all of that comes into play here. So her house is blessing her for what she does. This is a good Mother's Day point right here, isn't it? This will be a good sermon, verses 27 and 28, for Mother's Day. And then finally, the 10th thing we see about her is her foundation. Why do we have a lady who has a strong marriage, who has great industry, management, diligence, giftedness, watchfulness, reputation, character? Why do we have a lady like that? Well, we find out here in verses 29 through 31. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. There's our word virtue again. We had it dealing with the king. Don't give your virtue to women. And then we have the question there in verse 10, where are we going to find a virtuous woman? And now we have virtue again. Many daughters have done virtuously, but you exceed them all. Favor is deceitful. Beauty is vain. See, those are opposites of virtue. Virtue is not rooted in physical beauty, and it is not rooted in anything else. I mean, it's not rooted in your mannerisms. It's not rooted in your money. It's not rooted in how you clothe yourself, with what kind of apparel you clothe yourself. No, virtue does not depend on those things. And so when she says, favor is deceitful, beauty is vain, she may be favored and she may be beautiful, but those things are vanity compared to a woman that fears the Lord. She shall be praised. So now we know why all of these things are said about her, because her foundation is in the fear of the Lord. Why, of course it is. This is Proverbs. Why wouldn't we expect that? It's how we began this book. Remember, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 9? The fear of the Lord is the beginning. So here we have the end in chapter 31, and a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. How wonderful. Give her of the fruit of her hands. There's her hands again. See, we keep coming back to her ability. And her own works, and let her own works praise her in the gate. So what she has done, her fruit, she will be praised by it. That's wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, consider then your fruit. Will you be praised by what you've done in this life, or will others turn away from it and not find it virtuous? Well, I hope you'll join me. You won't be joining me at School of Wisdom podcast anymore, but I hope you'll join me again on Daily Dose Radio and perhaps in the Creek Road Baptist Pulpit. And there'll be other podcasts that Bible Bistro puts up in the near future. I hope you'll look forward to those, and I'll see you again in the Bible Bistro. Hey, thanks for listening to the School of Wisdom podcast. If you're listening to this over YouTube, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time one of these podcasts is uploaded. I really appreciate all my followers, and I try to respond to each and every one of your questions. Come again next week, and we'll enjoy another lesson in the School of Wisdom.